Hey folks, back here with the XJS, still working back here in the trunk area, and we're getting actually today got all the fuel out of it, and drained every last bit of gas, and then went ahead and ran a garden hose up here and a sprayer all up in this tank, and also in the surge tank there, or the slush tank, and took off the fuel filter, but it's connected now because I was flushing through the water there, and I didn't want the open hoses to leak into the trunk. But yeah, it doesn't smell like gas here anymore. Got every bit of that old crud out of there. That old 15-year-old fuel, and as you can see, the inside of the tank looks really nice, and she's all dried out, and I got the fan out here. I turned it off for the video. The slosh tank there has a little bit of rust on it, but it's just kind of like that pickup tube there. So I'm going to go ahead and clean that up with some WD-40 tomorrow. Ran out, and I'm going to have to go back to the parts store and get that. And then I'm going to go ahead and spray the inside of the tank and get residual water out of there. And then I've got this fan, blowing in here to keep everything nice and dry. So this was all just water down here because the way the car is sitting, it's jacked up, and all the blocks of wood I had to put under the tire because I got my cheapo jack up there. Wouldn't go underneath, so I had to use the jack point here under the door, and then put those under the tire, and then move the jack around under the cross member, raise it up again to drain the rest of the fuel out. Now, there were so many little bits and flakes of rust in that tank that I'm glad I took that garden hose up here, because I kept on filling it up with water, and when I took out the drain petcock, or the bolt here, as you can see, it's got holes on the side, so you undo that, and then the fuel would come down through the side holes here, not straight down. And I went ahead and took that out, and it just kind of trickled out there, and I couldn't figure out what it was. So I took a little plastic hammer and kind of tapped on that drain line there, and this one, and it just blew little flakes of rust out of there. So much so that when my drain pans would fill up, I was using this bucket, and it turned the bucket orange. And luckily, after about 5 to 10 gallons of spraying that out and draining it and repeating the cycle over a couple, 3 hours, finally got everything out of there. So we've just, like I said, we've got some residual, just like some powdery rust residue in there. I've got to go get a new fuel filter. The one that's on there, I pulled that off, and the number is for a Volkswagen. So it is a Bosch. So I'm going to race down and get one of those tomorrow, because I've got to go back to the dump, because all the fuel that we drained out before I did the water, I filled up my other fuel can. So I got to take that out to Hazmat Recovery, and free of charge. Don't dump it out in the yard, folks. No more of that. And then, yeah, I've got all the smell of the gas out of here. It's wonderful. It smells nice and clean. I went ahead and sprayed out this kind of foam liner here. Up underneath that had some fuel and some just like some old rust and stuff like that. So that came out of the drain holes right under my pans, and then right over here to my nice discolored bucket. So yeah, just a few more things to wrap up. We got our fuel sending unit. As you can see, it works. There you go. And I resoldered that. I don't know if it looks like a ground wire there, but I went ahead and resoldered that back on there, and I didn't damage the little plastic or vinyl there too bad, but used some flux on there and got that on there, so that's going to work for us. And then I got our replacement grommets, gaskets, if you will, from Uro. There's the part number there if you're working on these cars. The fuel sending unit and the surge tank or slosh tank, they are the same part numbers. However, I don't know where I put the one for the slosh tank, but it has a little, like a little cut or a notch in it to line up on the bottom, and it will match with that notch that's cut right there. If you see right there, on the top of there. So, and of course that's going to affect where that pickup tube goes. So I'm going to have to modify one of these to put that little notch in it on one of the new ones. But the other one is going to mirror up just right to our sending unit hole there in the gas tank. And then I'm going to go ahead and clean up this little plug. And there was not a washer on it or anything. So maybe what I'll do is I'll put some thread sealant on that and, pop it back up in there. And then on the way back from the dump, I'm going to grab 5 gallons of fresh fuel. And we'll go ahead and load up the tank there. And, slosh it around in there. We'll drain just a little bit out of it. And just to get the rest of the... whatever else might be in the lines, but those lines are clear. Believe me, they are clear now as far as draining. Now, when I pulled so the way this works is fuel comes out of the bottom of the tank in that green hose. It goes over to the slosh tank or the surge tank. And then this pickup tube right here goes into the fuel pump. That's the fuel pump. Then it goes through the fuel filter, wraps back around, and then goes through the car and comes up on this side of the engine in the fuel rail. Well, when I disconnected the fuel rail fitting up there to get all the residual fuel out, that was pure straight gasoline. There was none of that kerosene smell. So the fuel filter did its job. I don't know when the last time this was attempted to be started. I have not attempted to start it since it's been in my possession, but we've got fresh fuel going from here all the way up, and I went ahead and blew that out. So there's nothing in the lines. The only thing that may be is on the return line coming back to our vent tube here and up there, that green force back. Now, the funny thing is nowadays on the cars, they have inside the tank fuel pumps. So your tank, right, you would have your fuel pump sitting at the top, right, typically, and then the fuel gets siphoned up to the fuel pump and then through the lines in the fuel filter that way. The old ways is it just drains out of the bottom of the tank, as you see here. So all that crap that's in the bottom of the fuel tank is going to plug up your lines here before it even has a chance to go in your surge tank or your fuel pump. So if you're working on an old car and it has one of these types of gas tanks with the line coming out of the bottom of it, it would behoove you to go ahead and drain the fuel out and clear those lines, whether by, forcing a wire up through there to clear it out, or maybe blowing some air, or do like I did, is slosh it around and get the water through there, or whatever kind of, fluid you'd like to use, and then flush that out appropriately. And that will ensure you've got fresh fuel going through your lines to your surge tank into your fuel pump, because this works on gravity until it gets to the surge tank, and then it siphons over. Like I said, the reason for that is because this tank doesn't have the internal fuel pump in it, and being a sports coupe, when you're driving around and the fuel's sloshing around, the potential for the fuel to get displaced and kind of air bubbles going through, that's what the whole intention and purpose of that slosh tank is for, is to always keep fresh, carbonated, no air bubbles in the fuel tank or in the fuel lines, because by siphon down into surge tank, and then like nowadays, you've got your pickup tube going up to your fuel pump. So that's kind of a critical thing there, to make sure that surge tank is clean, as well as your fuel lines there. Just working on other cars and they have this type of system. If you're buying an old car, or if you're buying them that have been sitting for a long time and they've got this kind of fuel tank, again, go ahead and drain the fuel, flush it out, and check your lines there. Let's see what else. I found a forum. It's called Jag Lovers. So I've been reading a lot on there, and a lot of people have helped me out. Come to find out, this little plug here, right here, is supposed to be tucked up in there in a little bracket, and that's like the diagnostic connector for Jaguar dealership back in the day. Could plug something in there, and then they could monitor the electronic control module and all the little goodies, your fuel injector module and your relays up in there. Which, if you didn't know, on these Jaguars, you have a fuse box in your driver compartment, but if you lift the trunk and you go on the passenger side, I'm sure it's probably the same in England. But you go ahead and remove your carpeting here, and you've got your engine computer, you've got all your relays and your couple of relays up there for your fuel injections. So we're going to go ahead and leave that apart because I've got to connect the battery back here. And when I try to crank this thing over, I want to make sure everything's working, and then we'll go and run our diagnostics. Good news, good news, good news. I have assembled the dash, and we've got our new ignition. Pardon the seatbelt. I went ahead and plugged that in, these auto retracting seatbelts here. And so we got our new ignition switch, new to us, in there. Everything's put back together, the kick panel and everything. I've still got the cover for the fuse boxes. And I've still got to go get the key made for the doors and the fuel door and the glove box. But the key for the ignition cleaned up really nice. I might get a spare one of those made, but I actually found a blank key, Jaguar OEM key, off of all places eBay. And so here's the one that came with our ignition, or our new salvage ignition that we replaced and put back in there. And there you go. So no more hot wiring up in there. Everything plugged up real nice. And then I found on Amazon, I found these little strut locks. So basically you put your, let's say that extension cord is the strut for your trunk or your hood. You put it in there like that, and then you crank this down, and then that'll keep up your keep your hood up, so I don't have to use my vice grips anymore. So that was kind of cool. Those things, a pair of them were like $7.99, and I got them the next day. So that, I figured that was a pretty good deal. I just can't tell you how good of condition this paint is in. I did discover, we're missing the fog light up there, and then we've got these little plastic license plate light lenses, if you will, those plastic things there. Gonna have to get some of those, but everything's Lucas. Everything on here says Lucas, just about ignition, lighting. And from what I've read, it's a love-hate relationship with these V12s. Either people love them and they like working on them and they keep them tuned up and they drive them a lot, or they hate them. And this does have the Lucas injectors or ignition system in it. There is no oil leaks or anything like that. Disregard that right there. That is from me and my jack moving it around, but there is no oil leaks up underneath this car. Nothing's leaking. There is just road grime and stuff up underneath there. Like that, just typical stuff that'll clean up really good with some simple green or something like that. And back to our fuel pickup, I did go ahead and buff those brass connectors. So those are ready to go. And I did make a movie on my phone and take a picture as well, so I know where the connectors go back on the pickup unit. Other than that, yeah, there's no smell. And I'm just amazed at all of that stink that when I popped open that gas tank, it was the most miserable smell. I can't even explain it. It was worse than spilt diesel fuel. It was a combination like kerosene and paint thinner and whoo. And like I said, when it came out, it was like the color of antifreeze. It was orange. And it wasn't just rust. It was that, whatever that stuff was in that fuel. I don't know, fuel stabilizer or something. Actually, I've got some up here. I wonder if it wasn't the same color as this. Let's see. Do I still have some? No, no, I got 2-cycle engine oil. Oh, here we go. Yeah, let's see. Red, yeah, it was, I think it had a lot of the stabilizer in there. It was just, I mean, it was the color of that toolbox when it came out, that fuel. It was absolutely nuts. And that wasn't just the rust. Once I got all that crap out and took it to the dump, and then we, flushed the rest, and I got the hose in there today, man. It's like orange juice in that can. Or in that bucket. So anyway, there's an update for you. So we've got our dash all put back together, a new ignition switch in there. We've got our fuel tank flushed. We've got our surge tank flushed. We've got to get a fuel filter. Obviously going to have to get a battery. I may pull the one out of the Volvo just to kind of diagnostic and see if we can't get this thing started once in the next week or so. And then we'll go ahead and make sure that fuel pump turns over. I will go ahead and disconnect like I said in a couple of videos before, I will go ahead and connect that fuel discharge pipe to the fuel rail and run that into a bucket, even though I know that it's going to have fresh gas in it. I just want to get every last drop of whatever bits of crud might be in that line and might be in that fuel tank or that surge tank flushed all the way out. And then the only thing we'll have to worry about is the return line, and, the fuel filter will take care of that, I think. Other than that, yeah, you've seen the oil in it. You've seen the transmission fluid. Very well taken care of car. I think, it was just parked somewhere and left for quite some time. So we picked it up. We got to deal with the fuel tank issue and get all that out of there. I mean, talk about hazmat. And, surge tank out there. And then we'll get that fuel pickup cleaned up. New filter. I know I'm bouncing all over and repeating myself, but hey, I'm excited. This is a nice little car. And man, it's just so nice to walk back out here in the garage and not have that just absolute crud, that smell. So yeah, everything's nice and cleaned up there. Still a little bit of water. Let's leave that open there. And yeah, cleaned all of that out, man. It's almost like it I wouldn't call it brand new, but it's in a very, very good condition. I'm watching the other channel, a Monkey Wrench Mike, I think it is, on YouTube. And he's got an old Jaguar. It's the 6-cylinder, and I've seen him go through everything on that little car and swearing up and down to it. And kind of neat. I think a lot of people are getting into these old Jags because they're cheap, and you can pick them up for pennies and bring them home, and you got something to tinker around with. I've got a whole winter here to play with this car. And, like I said, after that's all done, if we get it running, and we'll just park it in here and we'll let it accumulate the ages and several more years, and we'll go from there. And then maybe if I get a wild hair, I might go get it registered and smogged and titled. I don't even know if last time it was smogged was like 2011. So who knows if those catalytic converters are going to work or anything like that. And, of course, when we go to turn it over, I'll prime it, the oil pump and all that, get fresh oil up in there, and then make sure that we don't have any leaks, or major leaks anyway. Some will be as expected. I mean, it's a 38-year-old car, seals and stuff and hoses, they get brittle, they get old. Even your wiring gets old and stuff like that. Good thing is I am a fan of WD-40. It helps put that moisture and that lubrication stuff back in as much as you think it should. It's not going to fix a busted hose or anything or dry rotted, but it does help get some of that, some of the oils back in my opinion. So, and I don't think that the trunk ever had kind of a silencer thing up there or anything like that. I don't know what you would call it, like a foam pad or something up there. But yeah, so here we are. Sorry about the delay in getting this. I was working all day today, and then I had some yard work to get done, and just normal everyday life stuff. Thanks so much. If you like the videos and you like the progress of videos and this playlist, by all means, give me a thumbs up. And thanks so much for my 280 subscribers now. I appreciate it. I'm not looking to, get money and be a YouTube star or anything like that, but kind of cool, many, many years from now, people can look back and see a 1989 Jaguar XJS 12 be resurrected here in the home garage. If I can do it, you can do it. Okay, folks, thanks so much for watching. We'll talk to you soon.